Maseches Bava Kama, Daf Kuv Beis Amud Aleph, in the very bottom of the page. Kuv Beis Amud Aleph. We are starting now this year's L'Nishmas of Imar Menachem Elakiva L'Nishmas Rus Bas Sholem Sol Bas Moshe L'Ufas Kol Chol Yisrael. Ton Rabbanan, our rabbis taught us a noisen mois l'shlucho. A person gave money to his shliach, as we said yesterday. It's not a regular shliach. A person gave money to a potential business partner. I've got the money, you've got the brains, or so he thought. You've got the possibility to work, so let's do business together. You know what I'm asking you to buy? Likach loy chitin. You should buy, you and me, chitin, so do business together. Let's buy wheat lemach tischar. We'll do 50-50. We're going to buy a bag of grains of wheat, 400 shekels. We will sow them in the ground, plant them, and they will be worth soon millionim, 1 million in a month. And I'll take 500,000, you take 500,000. Very nice. But you know what happened? That messenger / potential partner was just like a shliach of the first guy. He really, instead of buying wheat, he bought barley. He's not intending to break the partnership. He wants to buy it for the first guy, for Mr. Reuven, the meshaleach, the one who sent him. He wants to, but he wants to buy something else because he thinks he knows better. So he was meshane. He changed from the original request, from the original shelichus that he was called for. Or obviously vice versa. Instead of buying barley, he bought wheat, which means, by the way, there's no difference whether he improved it or he actually he went down. Yeah. Because why? Because usually soyim are not as good. Barley, I don't know about today's diets, but barley is considered as not as good as wheat. Doesn't make a difference. Whichever way he changed it, what happens then? Well, now what happens to the partnership? What happens halachically? What are we supposed to do without a mishap? So we have how many brises? 2. We're all chazorah now. It's important to review this. Brise number 1 says the follows. Tanya Chada. One brise says, we are doing a review now. Tanya Chada. First brise says, "In pochtu loy b'moitiru itiru loy." If that business venture is losing, instead of 100 shekels, now you only got 50. It's less than it used to be. Then, or vice versa, if really the 50 or 100 became 1,000, it doesn't make a difference. It all belongs to Mr. Buyer. Shimon, the one who bought the wrong kind of thing, is not a partner anymore. Yeah, the partnership completely broke. The shlichus, in more halachic term, broke. Now there's no shlichus, no connection, and we're going to see why. But everybody has to remember the number. Bryce number 1 says, no, that's it. Broken. No link. No connection. It only belongs to the buyer. Vetani Chada, the other Bryce says, im pochtu loy, im otiru laemtza. The other Bryce says no. The other Bryce seems to contradict the first one or disagree, and says if depends. If it's going to be a losing venture, pochtu loy. If the wheat or barley that he bought are going to be a losing horse, they're lost the case, and instead of 100, he's going to end up with 50, with less, then he should bear their responsibility on his own. But if really the wheat or barley they bloomed and they boomed and they boomed, and they're good, and they're now, instead of 100, they're worth thousands, then they're partners. So Reuven, the Meshaleach, is only a partner if he worked out well. But if he didn't work out right, then he's not a partner, which of course begs the question, how does that work? And also, are the two brises agreeing or disagreeing? So as very nicely Yaakov Gitztin defined the sugya, it's a multi-layered sugya. It's a multi-tiered. We have 2 brises. One says no partnership whatsoever. The second one says partial partnership. Yeah? If it suits me, then yes, otherwise no. What's going on over here? Now we have 2 different Amoraim explaining the different brises. 2 different Amoraim, each one looking in the 2 windows, the 2 brises, different ways. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, like Asha, Rabbi Yochanan says it's not difficult, it's not a stira, all is nice. It's a regular machlokes. Oh, Rabbi Meir, oh, Rabbi Yehuda. The first Mishnah follows Rabbi Meir, Brisa. The second Brisa follows Rabbi Yehuda. Which Rabbi Meir, which Rabbi Yehuda? We all know them from the Mishnah. We all remember the black versus red case, black and red. Ha Rabbi Meir, the Omar Shinui Koine. The first Brisa that says that the only owner of the grains is the buyer, the shliach, which did not fulfill the wishes of the meshaleach. What did he do? Shinui, he changed. He changed Shinui Koine. You know what he is? He's a gazlan. He's a thief. Because Lamaisa, I asked him to buy, he's not a thief who comes in the middle of the night, but it's like theft in a way. In other words, he changed from the words of from the original request. He's doing his own thing. Oh, that's very nice. You're doing your own thing. You're koine. You now acquire the schayre. He acquired the schayre. Now you're the only owner of the wheat or barley or corn or whatever you bought. That's very simple. So now Reuven, the meshalech, is out of the business, which sometimes is not good for Reuven. Out of the business. The second brisa belongs to Rabbi Yehuda. The second brisa was authored by Rabbi Yehuda. What does he say? Shinu eno koine. Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah said that if the artisan or the dyer, instead of painting red, he painted black, instead of making me a bench, he made me a chair, then what? Says Rabbi Yehuda, Shinui is not koine. Does not become the owner. That's too good for him. What do we say? We say that although he changed from the original request, the item still belongs to the original client, the original person who asked for it. It stays his, and he's going to get, the artisan, the worker, will get minimum wages. Here too, Rabbi Yehuda says, Shinu ena koine, which means that the Meshalech Reuven still has a hand in the partnership. He still is the owner. So now everyone's asking, the second brisa, yeah, I saw people making faces. What? That's not fair. If you say that the first, what did the second brisa said? If it's profitable, if it's good, then Reuven is in the game. But if it's a losing horse, then he's not. What do you mean? Very easy, said Rashi, and that concept appears in Shas many times. I even checked this in the Ratzah Chochma. The concept is called letikuni shdartich veloy leivuti. If I send somebody as shlichus, obviously my intention is I only send him to do something good for me and not to do ivut, not to do something that is against my will. And therefore, although Shinui is not koine, and therefore Shimon is not the only owner, Reuven and Shimon are partners, that's only if I said chitim and you said seoirim, okay, I'm still in it because I follow Rabbi Yehuda that says that Shinui ain't a koine, meaning that the original person who wants red does own the black. If I want a tie, and instead of a tie, he made me a hat, I still own the hat. Elamai, when it comes to shlichus, because he did not exactly did what I told him, then I'm agreeing to go along with his nonsense, so to speak, and still be part of it if it's profitable. Because shlichus by definition means I want things to be good for me, not bad. He asked him to be mekadeshim a woman. Let's say, forget about the fact he has to see her first, but yeah, I asked somebody to be mekadesh me a woman in America. They got me somebody who's, I don't know, completely out of the picture, out of the story. Yeah, then what? What do we say? That's not the type of woman I was looking for, and everybody knows that. Imela, the shlichus doesn't function. If the shlichus doesn't function, we say if it's bad, it never worked with to begin with. And if it's good, then the shlichus worked. That's what we said the second brisa. That's brisa number one, brisa number two, according to Rabbi Yochanan. Again, Rabbi Yochanan says first brisa Rabbi Meir, second brisa Rabbi Yehuda. Yes shinui, no shinui. Maskif lo Rabbi Lozo. Here comes another opinion. Rabbi Lozo attacks Rabbi Yochanan, not physically but verbally. Mimai, how do you know? Why are you so easily alleging and connecting Rabbi Meir of black and red to Rabbi Meir of wheat and barley? How do you see the connection so strongly? I don't see the connection so much. Why? Dilma, maybe Adkan lo kama Rabbi Meir el b'mide de chazile the gufe. You know when Rabbi Meir says that shinui is koine, if I asked for red wool and he gave me black wool, we say that I have nothing to do with that wool anymore. And the shinui is significant, and therefore the owner of the crazily painted dyed wool is the artisan and not the client. You know when we say that? Something that I bought for personal use, gufe, my body. I like red. I like black. I want a chair. I want a bench, and not that stupidity you gave me now. And therefore, that shino is so important and significant, which means it's out of the hands of the client and completely in the hands of the uman. Over here, we assume that we talk about schoira. We talk about two people, Reuven and Shimon, who are not interested in eating neither barley nor wheat. They're looking to do business. Business means 5-letter words, Money. That's all that's all he wants. And therefore, even though I told you wheat and you got barley, which is not my ideal business venture, business idea, I'm not so hell-bent against barley. If barley yields profit, I'll go for barley. I never did yoga in my life. You're going to give me some yoga mats to sell them for millions? I'll sell yoga mats, even though it doesn't interest me at all, right? And therefore, the hakpada of the balabais is not as strong, and therefore shinui may possibly not be kone. And maybe the first guy, Reuven, still has his finger in the pie. And therefore, what's your comparison? Ela Omar Blozo. Therefore, Rablozo wants to explain. Oh, here comes, as you nicely called it, the other layer of the sugya. Rabbi Lozer, the Amoiro, argues now on Rabbi Yochanan Amoiro on how to explain the two brises. How do we explain the two different brises? I'll tell you how, says Rabbi Lozer. Rabbi Meir. Both brises follow Rabbi Meir that believes in what? Shinui koine. If there's a real shinui, I want to put this in red, not black. Big red letters. If there's real significant shinui, both brises are Rabbi Meir, and they both agree that shinui means I'm out of the game. You changed, you did something new. It's as if you stole. We have a new item that belongs to you, does not belong to me. I'm the Meshaleach. You know when that is true, though? Beloy kasha. It's not difficult, the difference between the brises. Kan la'achila, kan l'schoiro. Very good. The first brisa that said that shinui koine and the exclusive owner is Mr. Smart Guy who went to the store and bought the wrong thing. That is not a business venture. Who told you we're talking about business? I brainwashed you. You look at the brisa. All it says was he sent him to the store to buy wheat and he bought sairim. Not everything's about business. You know why I asked him to buy chitim and sairim? Everybody here, I don't know what to eat for breakfast actually. But I know a lot of people in the world eat for breakfast cereals. Chitim, sairim. I don't know. He likes Kellogg's and he likes Post. Yeah. In other words, in the first case, we're talking that he asked him to buy sairim for food. I want to buy sairim. I like sairim. I love sairim. I'm into eating sairim barley all day long, and that's what my doctor told me. And you bought me chitim? I'm shaking a guy. I'm makpid. It's my personal use. And therefore, because I wanted chitim and you bought me sa'orim, the change is significant and unforgivable, so to speak. Not unforgivable. I mean, it's very, very significant, very, very important. And therefore, I'm out of the game. Now, you, Shimon, you're the only owner of that newly bought item, which I didn't dream about. Kan l'schoiro. The second brisa still follows Rabbi Meir and still believes that shinui is koine. However, it's not called shinu when it's a schoiro. The second case is talking about let's do business. Let's make 3 things: kesef, money, and geld. That's all I want. And you know what, Mr. Shimon? Let's do some, brainstorming. And I came to the conclusion, I brainstormed with myself. I came to the conclusion, the good business deal would be chitim. So go buy chitim. Came Shimon and said, sairim. Okay, let's think about it. Maybe Sar will bring us more money. Therefore, because the shinu is not so significant, all he wants is money, which can be brought either for chitim, sa'arim, or yoga mats. So lemaisa, there the shinu is not real shinui, and therefore then we say that Shimon is not the only owner. Reuben is still connected to the story. Why only if it's profitable and not if it's a losing horse? Because lemaisa he did not do. Shimon did not follow Reuben's instructions down to the T. It's like a Twilight Zone kind of shlichus. Therefore says, listen, shlichus for money means money. If you bought me a losing horse, it's a losing horse. B, I didn't ask for that. Then you'll have to stand on your own. Because my shlichus button was never really pressed. Shlichus only works for good, not for bad. That's the second explanation. That's our blood. Good. Now comes the Gemara with a question. And that question and its discussion is going to follow us through the entire page. Machechu Allah b'ma'arova. They laughed about it. They smirked on it in Ma'arova, in Eretz Israel. Somebody was laughing, meaning it's a sort of a question. They were questioning this statement. What were they asking? LaRabbi Yochanan aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Remember the first way of explaining the two brises? It was Rabbi Yochanan, and he said that the second brisa follows Rabbi Yehuda. The second brisa said what? That it's a maybe. Now, if it's good, I'm in it. If it's bad, I'm out of it. And that was my condition to begin with. The Gemara is asking, if you follow Rabbi Yehuda in the second brisa, which you claim you do, then b'chmi hoidio lebal chitin sheyak nechitin lebal mois. Who told the chitim owner? Who's the chitim owner? The seller. Hey, he's also a person. He's not a bench. He's not a stone. The chitim owner, meaning the guy selling on the other side of the counter, the one who says, "Good morning, welcome to chitim.com." This guy who sells the chitim, is he aware bichlal of the fact that Shimon's here on behalf of Reuben? You may ask, who cares? Now I have a much better understanding. I care, says Rashi. There is no shlichus. Why there's no shlichus bichlal? It's very nice to talk philosophically about this halfway shlichus, but lamaisa, if, says Rashi, if you believe in the Rabbi Yehuda that holds shinui is einoi koine, right? Shinui koine would have given complete exclusivity to Shimon. Shimon changed from red to black, from wheat to barley. Let's say Rabbi Meir changed. Now he's boom. He got Reuben out of the picture, snapped him out of the picture. He's the only one. But it's not the case according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he's not the owner. Now the shlichus, on the other hand, is not working either because he's not doing what Lamaisa Reuben told him to do. So if you don't have shlichus, you don't have shinui, then really, what gives Reuben the right, bichlal, to be here in the story with Shimon? The only way you can achieve it is by Levi, let's call the Chitim guy Levi, deciding on his end, I am selling Shimon in order to give Reuben. I'll give an example to make it much clearer. I'll give you a very, very good example. Let's say Chas v'Shalom, a couple wants to get divorced, yeah? And he's in America, she's in Israel. Surprisingly, nobody wants to take the plane. Each one sticks his feet in the ground. I'm staying in Israel, I'm staying in America. Shelichus, people do it all the time, yeah? I wouldn't say Kenirbu, it shouldn't happen, but yeah, let's say there's a shaliach, a messenger. Either the husband sends a shaliach, give the get to my wife, yeah? The husband lives in Bnei Brak, okay? Gives the get to my wife who lives in Borough Park. So that shliach, who is the long arm of who? He's the long arm of the husband. Once he reaches the wife, she got the get. It's as if she got it from the husband, because Mr. Shliach, who took the next flight from Bnei Brak to JFK, he is the shliach of the husband. Let's say, what's the other way? There's another way. She can send the shliach from Borough Park to Bnei Brak, yeah, they're JFK to LTV, yeah, TLV, and what? And then a shliach Kabbalah. He's her long arm, right? And the husband gives the get to his hand, and now she's divorced in Borough Park. The second, and it's the hand of her shliach. That's a little bit what's happening here. 1 second. Because the shlichus between Reuben and Shimon is a bit dysfunctional, had the Moicher Levi known that Shimon is really supposed to be for Reuben, even though he's playing games, that would have maybe have worked. Because then Levi would say, I'm giving it in the hands of Shimon, so Reuben should be the owner. But he doesn't know about it. The assumption is that he doesn't. So how does that work? So Shimon is completely hanging in the air. And you're saying Shimon ain't a koiner. So he's not the owner himself. The shlichus, stinks from Reuben's side, and Levi doesn't know either. What a balagan. So how does anything work? No, give me a second. Now, Maskif of Shmuel Basasati, wait a second. You're telling me that the Moicher Levi, the wheat owner, has to know that what's going on between Reuben and Shimon? If so, yeah, maybe even when Reuben told him buy wheat, and Shimon, like a good boy, went and buy wheat, maybe there also Levi has to know that the Shimon who's there in the shop in front of the counter is not the real buyer. Maybe the seller has to know that he is representing Reuben, because otherwise he's selling it to the wrong guy. We'll discuss that soon, because that starts a whole new thing. Ellen, yes, what do you want to say? I'll listen to Ellen, and then, yes, we'll continue. I'm answering Ellen, and I'm actually starting now. The Gemara sort of like didn't completely change. The Gemara sort of like, made a bend a little bit, diverting a little bit in the sugya. Right. Basically, the question is exactly what you're asking. Do we say, when I send somebody to buy me an item, to buy me the chitim, to buy me a box of cereal from Best Market, yeah? Then The seller, he doesn't know that the person in the shop is representing someone else. Does he have to know or doesn't he have to know? This is the question, to know or not to know, which means some people would say, of course, no, ma'achpat. In other words, even though your grandson that you sent to the shop is not the real owner, who cares? Lamaisa, you did become the automatic owner. I just wanted to explain something which I'm not sure aware of. Halachically, once the lady in or the man in Best Market put the cereal box in his hands of the boy, let's say it works that way, and he was moishachit, he pulled it, automatically it belongs to you. Even if you're right now in Melbourne, Australia, because he's your halachic shliach, the second it's by him, nimshach by him, that's it. It belongs to you. Oh, so now this is a halachic trick. That's shlichus. That's what shlichus means, right? But kiddushin, a man is mekadesh a woman in proxy. The second the ring is in her finger, and she is in Los Angeles, and he is in Yerushalayim, she is his wife. If that works by magic, by halachic Wi-Fi. Oh, now comes the question. The seller, I thought all my life, like Alan, who needs to know? The seller has to know the inner politics between us. The seller knows I'm selling it to Mr. Whoever works. I'm a good halachic guy. I don't care whether that cute little grandson you have, I don't know, 15 years old, is it for him or for his grandfather? None of my business, and he works. But here come Bnei Ma'arovot, Bnei Eretz Yisrael, possibly are saying, no, maybe for shlichus to work and there's a third party, you cannot leave the third party out of the picture because the third party is extremely important. He's the one selling, and that's called das acheres makna. You have to have someone with a mind to be makne, and maybe his mind, listen carefully, has to be focused and know exactly who he's selling it to. If he thinks he's selling it to your 15 years old and really he's not the owner, he's selling it to the wrong guy, and therefore the sale is not a sale, possibly. In other words, for shlichus, you need 3 for tango, not 2. You need the meshalech and the shliach, and you need the guy working against them on the other side to know who's dealing with. That is just a possible way of thinking. That's a machlokes from now till the end of the shiur. That exactly is the question. I loved your question because it actually, that sort of summarizes, before we even started, the whole question. So now, Omar Biabo. Yeah, are you okay? Das acheres makna. Another das has to be makne. He didn't buy it from the street. He bought it from Mr. Sharvit. Amar Rabbi Abo, answers Rabbi Abo, shiny chitin v'chitin. No. He says like Ellen, chitin v'chitin. If the shliach is a good guy who obeys the instructions of the meshalech, the shlichus ka'avid. He's doing the shlichus of the original meshalech of the owner. The chiyad, not v'chi, chiyad. He's like the hand of Baal Habais, Dami. He's like the hand of Baal Habais, which means, as I understood all my life, like you were saying, who needs to know? Why should the makne, the guy selling, why does he have to know if it's Reuven and Shimon? He's selling it to whoever works. Like you want to fill a halachic form and it's too complicated. Prusbul, after this, after that, I know selling it. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. The guy's not very knowledgeable. He became from yesterday. He signs whatever the rabbi says, right? Whatever the rabbi says is good. That's good enough. That's what the Gemara wants to say now, although it's going to be a debate. Oh, I just want to stress. But if is a bad boy, if instead of chitim is buying something, that's worse. Because then it's not a whatever worse. Because really, Reuven and Shimon shlichus is weak to begin with. They have their own problems. Teda. Now the Gemara wants to prove the point that even though the person, the mocher, what's a mocher? The seller, the vendor, does not know exactly what's going on, it's still good enough. He sells it to whoever the owner is, him, her, or whoever. And we prove it from a Mishnah in Erchin. Erchin, not very popular Masechta. What does it say in Erchin? By the way, this is in this week's parsha. In the Chukkai said we're going to meet a certain term, which we're going to see now. Echad makdish nechosov. A person had this, burst, the gust of frumkeit. Now he wants to be makdish all his money. Wow. He wants to consecrate all his money to the holy temple. Wow. All his money. Or a person who says, Erki Olai. How much are you worth when you're between 20 and 60? you're worth 50 shekels. No more, not 50 shekels. Shekel of the Torah is much more. Yeah, every person is a price list of how much each person is worth according to the Torah. Says the person, my age, I'm 51. I'm revealing a big secret over here. Yeah, so in my age, 51, I'm still worth 50 shekels. Phew. So now, if I said Erki Olai, I have to bring 50 shekels, which is much more than 50 shekels, to Beis Hamikdash. All very nice. Eventually, the people from Beis Hamikdash come, Mister, it's time to, keep up with your pledge. Yeah, and now you have to give us your money or what? Your items that you're makdish to Beis Hamikdash. Ein lo biksus ishto v'lo biksus bonov. So they take his shtreimel and his kapoto and his computer and his shoes, and they take his chair and they take his siddur, whatever, all kinds of things. What about the sheitel? What about the makeup? What about the dresses? Don't touch those. They're not supposed to take it. And not the clothes of the kinderlach either. Okay, let's continue. Let's say he was a good husband, and the Tiferes Yisrael in the Mishnah explains he actually took her sweater or blouse, whatever, and he dyed it. He took it to a dyer to dye it for her. So the Beis Din are not allowed to touch that newly dyed item. Even if there's an item like sandals that they never ever wore in their lives, which means that they never really possessed it physically, they never wore it. All those items, Bekitzer, these are three groups that the Tiferes Yisrael explains why I need all three. Lamaisa, all these personal items belong to the wife and the children. The Beis Din, the Beis Hamikdash, the Gizbar, the collector, the treasurer cannot touch them. Why? The assumption is that the husband, he's the one who went to the market. He went to the store to buy those Crocs. I took Crocs as a unisex kind of item. Yeah, those Crocs he bought for his wife, even without her sending him. He's like her messenger. You know why? Because if you do something good for the other one, he can do things on his behalf without him asking. Verse is wrong. Says the Mishnah like this. The husband eventually, at some point in the past, he went and he bought what? He bought his wife the shoes, right? Those shoes. Now, those shoes, when the seller bought the shoes, sold the shoes to the husband, does he know that the husband is buying it for his wife? No, not necessarily. And yet, they belong to her. Look, we assume that the items in the house were bought by the husband. I don't know why, but women did go shopping. I mean, kol kvud v'smelach pnima, but let's assume the husband is the one more out and about. And at least some of the items he bought her before Yom Tov, he's supposed to buy a wife. He's a good husband. He bought her clothes. He bought her stuff. Yeah, at least some of it was bought by him. And the seller didn't know. The seller is not always the yachne. What are you buying it for? Is that a Valentine's present? No. What? He bought it and maybe thought it's for the husband. And yet it belongs to the wife. So Ellen is right. You see that the seller does not have to know exactly what is the final destination of those shoes, and yet it's a good sale. V'amai, the Gemara says it's better than me. Why? Lema hachonami, according to your logic, the way you explain the Ma'arov, the Bnei Eretz Yisrael, here too. How does it sabah? How does the dyer know to sell the dye to the woman? He says a man in front of him, not a woman. Elalav must be, you know why she became the legal owner? Because we say the shlichus, not shlichusei. The husband ka'avid, the husband does the shlichus of his wife. Ukeyad ishtoi dami. The husband is like the long arm of his wife. And excuse my coarse language, it's none of the business of the seller. Same thing over here. Also by us, when Reuven sent Shimon to buy wheat, and he bought wheat like a good boy, then Shimon is the automatic long arm. I'm not saying long arm to say a cute English expression. It's a Torah expression. Yada arichta is like an extension of Reuven. Shlichus is an extension of yourself. He's your halachic messenger. And therefore what? And therefore, it's none of the business of the seller. And it all works right. Omar Ababa, no. The Gemara is now going to ping pong a bit about it. Omar Ababa, loi. That's not true. Ababa says, you may be right, but don't prove it from that Mishnah with the story of the nice husband who bought clothes for his wife. Why? He says no. whoever is makdish nechosim, and that the person who's makdish the nechosim, the person who's makdish here, who's the one who was makdish the entire house? Mr. Husband, unless he's abusive, chas v'shalom, then he, although everything in the house may belong to him, you know why? Because maybe when the seller sold him the Crocs shoes, really the seller did not know it goes to the wife, and therefore really belongs to the husband and not to the wife. Get me? Could be Marova right. When the seller gets the box of shoes to the husband and gives it to his hands, he thinks they belong to the husband. They belong to the husband because maybe the seller does have to know the nitty-gritty and the details. So really, all those items in the house really belong to the husband because the sellers never knew it's for the wife. So why aren't they consecrated? Why they're not mukdash? I'll tell you why. Because the man is smart enough not to include it in the hekdesh. Not include it. Really, those shoes of my wife belong to me. Let's say in their bedroom, they have two items. They have the black hat next to the shelichus, okay? Make it very clear. They all belong to the husband. But when the husband was makdish all his belongings, he automatically ticked out of the story that he made like his own wish list, and he automatically excluded his wife's items and his children's items for reasons of two words, which we all, Baruch Hashem, excel in, Shalom Bayis. So he just excluded that. But it doesn't mean that it don't belong to him. Maybe they do belong to him, but he just wasn't makdish them. One doesn't reflect on the other. Maskif lo Rabbi Zera. Oh, here comes another attack. Whoa, from Rabbi Zera's side. The chidaita shalodem al tfilav. You assume, my esteemed friend and colleague Rabbi Abba, you assume that it's all in the person's mind, and we're being so nice and democratic, and we allow him to pick and choose. Wait a second. You think a person with his right mind who's religious, do you put on tefillin every day? That's so nice. Yeah, a person puts on tefillin every day, and he's makdish all his belongings. Does he mean to include the tefillin? Surely not. He needs what he's going to wear tomorrow morning, and tefillin, to give my tefillin. And yet, the previous Mishnah over there in Erkin says, a makdish nechosov, malin lo tefillin. A person who's makdish nechosov, malin means they assess it, they include it in the assessment, and the tefillin should be given to Beis Hamikdash. What he's going to wear tomorrow morning for Shachris? Borrow money. Keep the tefillin to yourself, and the value of your tefillin, the $600, you have to give in cash to Beis Hamikdash. But Lamaisa, what we're seeing from the tefillin story, don't get confused, is one point. It's not up to the person's machshava. In other words, when he said all my belongings, he means all his belongings, whether he likes it or not. Okay? So that breaks what you said. So the reason that the sheitel and the red dress and all these things of the wife aren't hekdishes, it's not because he chose not to. It's because they really belong to them. If they really belong to them, that shows that the seller does not have to know what's going on. Amar la Abaye in. Says Abaye, yes, I disagree with you, and I say yes to what you say no. Daita shel adam al tefillin. Yes, you think a person does not want to makdish his tefillin to Beis Hamikdash? Yes, he does. Hamakdish nechosov savar mitzvah ka'avidna. When a person is makdish all his belongings, he thinks he's doing a great mitzvah. Some Rishonim died from here that it's not a mitzvah. I don't know why. I guess it's too much to give all your money to Beis Hamikdash. Not feasible. Adkan, yeah, there's all exactly, yeah, 5,000 shekels each one to Beis Hamikdash. That's it, but not all your nechosim. Mitzvah ka'avidna. Mitzvah ka'avidna. I make a mitzvah. I do a mitzvah, and therefore that's included. The end daita shel adam al ksus ishto yobanav mishum eva. Mashenken, when it comes to his children's and wives and children's personal items, their garments, their clothing, he does not include them because of animosity. He does not want to create animosity between him and his wife, him and his children. The teenage children will not be exactly enamored with him if he's makdish all their nice sneakers and their nice items and their nice dresses or pants or whatever. And therefore, yes, we believe that the reason why those items are not included is not because of ownership. Could be everything belongs to him. Everything belongs to daddy in the house, as we sometimes try to tell to my 7 years old. Yeah. everything belongs to the father. Elamai, tefillin he includes. He does have this mental checklist with boxes, some with tick and some with an X. Okay? Tefillin he includes. His wife and children items, it does not include. But the ownership, could be the ownership is his, because the seller who sold it to him in the shop thought that it belonged to the daddy. The real belonged to the daddy. Meaning the seller in the shop has to know exactly the nitty-gritty of the details. Every time we have to remind ourselves the source of the Chad Gadya. Maskif Laravoishia. This is the almost last move in this chess game. Maskif Laravoishia. Ravoishia is now attacking. How can you tell me that we're talking about a person who wants this, who wants that, who are being also democratic and liberal and nice, and who say, you're makdish whatever you want, it's up to you? No. If you remember, I did stress it before, there are two types of people that we talk about over here. One who just designated everything to Beis HaMikdash, and the other one who said, Erki Olai. Erki Olai, I owe Beis HaMikdash 50 shekel, 50 sela. And Bitnan, it says regarding Chayv Erchin Mimashkin in Oison, a person who says, I owe my erech, I owe my own value to Beis HaMikdash, he is forced to give it. Lamashken is the collateral. He shall be collateral against his will. Once you utter the words in a very nice, expensive mood, very frum and very rich, and you said, oh, my 50 shekels, by the way, is much, much, much more than today's 50 shekels. Yeah. My erech is the Beis HaMikdash. Later on, he's in a sour mood. Gotta do it, mister. And we'll force you and we'll take your best things against your will. Oh, is a person ever interested that he himself should be collateral? Obviously not. Elama, you see what? You see that it's not up to the person's machshava. So back to square one. We see that it's not because he decided that his wife's sheitel or his wife's shoes are not included. The reason why they're not included is not because he chose not to include them. It's because they belong to his wife. If the shoes of his wife belong to his wife, that means what? That the guy at the store, although didn't know the reality, it's okay. He doesn't have to know the reality that it's for the wife. Every time we have to go back to that. And that's the last line in this ping pong. We found a escape route. We found a way out of this whole story. Says Rabbi Abba like this. We basically, let's summarize this whole ping pong, this whole boxing match. There are really two schools of thought here. School of thought number one, before we get to the final climax over here. Everybody knows, and nobody argues, there's a Mishnah in Erchin that says, Beis Din knocks on the door, pam, 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 pam. Mister, you're makdish all your assets, and all your assets are now, we have a big box, and you put all your assets over here. The tefillin, we're not gonna take away from you, but what? Okay, give us $500 against the tefillin, because that's how we assess. Which items do they not touch? Everyone agrees? The clothes of the wife and children. The question is why? Explanation number one. Those items belong to them. I said my stuff, I'm makdish Beis HaMikdash. But Prince Abela and all the 12 children, their stuff does not belong to daddy. Now let's go backwards. Why don't they belong to daddy? Even though daddy is the one who went to the fashion store and bought them for the wife before Yom Tov, and for the birthday, and for the anniversary, and for this. Lamai said they belong to who? They belong to the wife. Why do they belong to the wife? Because although the man in the shop who sold it only saw a man in front of him and not the woman, it doesn't make a difference. Like you thought all the time. Yeah, he doesn't have to know the nitty-gritty. So Mimela, since husband who buys it in a fancy bag has his wife in mind, that's all we need, and it belongs to her. That's number one. Another way of explaining, no. All those items bought by daddy, you know why the Beis HaMikdash collectors don't take them? I'll tell you why. Really, they all belong to daddy. You know why they belong to daddy? Because the Mr. or Mrs. who sold him in the shop, the one standing behind the counter in the fashion store, whichever one, yeah, what about her? She didn't know it's for the wife. She thought it's for the husband. It's some kind of sweater that both genders can wear. Let's say shoes both can wear. Then what? Then she didn't know it's for the wife. She thought it's for him. Because she thought it's for him, it really belonged to him. because the guy or girl selling have to know exactly what's going on. And if they think it belongs to the husband, it stays stuck with the husband. If so, if all those items belong to Mr. Husband, how come they're not taking the Beis Hamikdash? Because we assume that he's not interested in that going to Beis Hamikdash because he wants to keep peace with his wife. Lamais, his wife is the one wearing it, not him. He doesn't want his wife to scream at him, or he wants her to be nice to him, and therefore he does that. That point, the Gemara rejected and said, no, we do not believe that Hekdesh is so nice and pluralistic and tells you, is that what you wanted? Because Hekdesh is aggressive. Hekdesh takes everything, even against your will. So how do you explain it? Hello, Amar Baba. Now, I hope this summary helped you. Amar Baba, Kol Makdish Nechosov, Nasa Kemi Shehikna Lentsus Ishtabanov Mikol. There's a third option. Really, they belong to Tati. Everything belongs to the father. He's the one who bought it. And since the person in the shop knew no better, it belongs to the father. So why isn't it going to Beis Hamikdash? I'll tell you why. That man, because he's scared of his wife or loves his wife or both, he doesn't want all her items to go to Beis Hamikdash. He played the mental trick. And a second before the people in Beis Hamikdash knocked on the door, when he heard the knocking and it said, Ekdash collectors, then he was makne those items that belong to him, her shoes and her collar and her this and her that and her shirt, let's say, her pajama. He was now gave it over to her. In his mind, he was makne to his wife and children. Or even if he didn't, it's considered as if he did. So that's a third option. Really, they belong to him. Yeah. You know what? They don't go to Beis Hamikdash because a second before the collectors came, he moved it to the domain of his wife. And now you can tell the Hekdesh people, hey, people, don't touch that because it really belongs to my wife. But it does not reflect on what happened 2 months ago or half a year ago in the shop when he bought it. Nothing to do with that. So right now, after all the give and take in this ping pong, we still don't have a proof who's right. We still don't have a proof. We still have a question. When a husband, nice husband, all starry-eyed, goes to the shop to buy something to his wife, something that can be both a pen. A nice pen can be both men and women. Yeah, I don't know, it's something, baseball cap can be both. They both are big supporters of Spurs. Yeah, so so they wear the same hat. So now she doesn't know, the seller doesn't know, is it for the husband or for the wife? Some people would say, even though the husband is a shliach of his wife, some say, the wife is the owner. The seller doesn't know. The seller doesn't have to know. The seller buys it, whoever is the owner. The other opinion says no. If the seller doesn't know who is the real exact address at the end of the story, then the sale may go to the wrong place. The seller thinks it belongs to the messenger, it will stay with the messenger. Yes, Alan. Now we're going to see a new case, a new story, kind of new, but we're still not out of the question of Bnei Ma'arova. Does the seller have to know everything, or doesn't the seller have to know everything when two people are involved in the purchase? That's basically the question. Let's see the following case. The first line we're in the second wide line, and the first line here that we're about to read is absolutely unintelligible. And the Gemara also will say that we don't understand it, and soon we'll explain it. So don't worry. Tanu Rabbanon. A person who purchased the field on behalf of his friend, and we don't force him to sell. Don't ask me what that means, because the Gemara also doesn't know. The Gemara will explain. But if you made a condition, if there was a condition made, almenas, I'm buying it on condition that you sell it again, then we force him to sell. The words Maika Omer means, what do you want for my life? Maika Omer, what are you talking about over here? Well, what's the story? Explanation number one is Rav Sheshes. We're going to see two explanations, Rav Sheshes and Abaye. This is one brisa explained by two Amoraim. Says Rav Sheshes. This is what it says. A person bought a field for himself. He wants the field, he wants the apartment, but he falsely says to the people, I'm working on behalf of Reish Galusa. You know why? Reish Galusa, the exilarch. Now everybody knows what exilarch. The exilarch, the government, the Jewish government of Bavel, the autonomous government of Bavel. And now Reish Galusa he is scared. Mr. Chaim Yankel is a bit of a pushover, a regular guy. He's scared. You know what he's scared? If I buy a field and it says in the tabu in the computer in Misrad Pnim that it's Chaim Yankel's, nasty people will try to take it away from me in all kinds of legal, not so legal ways. But if my field they'll think belongs to Resh Galusa, I'll have the field written under the name of Resh Galusa. Nobody dares touching Resh Galusa. In other words, so this guy, you may blame him and say that he's not such an honest guy. As our esteemed colleague here, Peretz, mentioned about Switzerland, right, from Rav Solomon, and as in this country is extremely accepted to do, even the lawyer tells you to do it, that is many times people buy apartments and they write them under the name of other people for reasons of taxes. I'm not saying good or bad, but it's even legal to write it under your children's name. Write it down your own children's name is legal. Because in this country, if you owe a second or third or fourth apartment, it's a very, very high taxes. So if you want to buy your third or fourth or even second apartment, I'm not such a mumcha, you have to write it on the name, register under the name of your 18 years old, I think now the limited it or something, child, and then it's okay tax-wise. So let's say this person wants to play a bit of a shtick, a semi-legal shtick. He wants to write the field not under his name. So he's asking the guy, the seller, sell me, and I'm behaving I'm acting. I'm from Resh Galusa, even fake the tag, Resh Galusa guy. Okay, and koifin oyster Resh Galusa limko. Now, obviously, this guy is a terrible risk. Why? Resh Galusa is a scary guy. He wants Resh Galusa to be his guard dog to stave off everybody else. But if it's written under Resh Galusa very easily will come and take it from him. Resh Galusa will say, okay, that's a nice apartment. It's written under me. I'm going to live here. So we don't force Resh Galusa to write a shtar to Mr. Buyer saying the Resh Galusa admits that it's not mine. Let's say I buy my second apartment and I write it under my 18 years old daughter. She's 19 years old. Let's say I don't trust her, which I do. Let's say I don't, yeah. So maybe I'll tell her, listen, Ahuva, you should not write, yeah, a shtar to me. My apartment belongs to daddy, yeah. So we don't force Resh Galusa to do that. That second stage, we don't force Resh Galusa out of the story to do that. Resh Galusa is out of the story, and Mr. Buyer is under risk. The one day Resh Galusa will find out about this shtick and take the apartment from him, the flat. The Imam al-Menas, but if the person who bought on behalf of Resh Galusa said, I'm buying for Resh Galusa and I'm making a condition that you write me a special shtar that it belongs to me, then koifin is Resh Galusa limko, then we force Resh Galusa to write the shtar to Mr. Buyer saying, I, Resh Galusa, hereby say that my so-called apartment is not really mine. Under my name, I'm selling it to the real buyer, to Chaim Yankel. So now the Gemara wants to say like that. Omama, what is that to do with our story? This is a little bit similar to the story of up until now. We have two people here on the buyer side. In this case, one is real and one is fake. In Hebrew, we say straw man. You say it in English? It's a man that doesn't really exist, just a name out there to kilu ishkash. I don't say it in English. It's kilu a figure invented to look strong or look good, to have him in the background. Ishkash, a straw man. Why? No, ask better. Why not to force Resh Galusa? No. Love. And who are the only people who are actually partners? Who? The buyer and the seller. Was Resh Galusa there, Bechlau? So, you're asking? Oh. We're going to send a note to your wife. Very nice. Oh, very nice. Soon your question will appear in the Gemara. Omar Ma. But before that, we have another point to clarify regarding our question from the beginning of the page. Omar Ma is an Amoira analyzing the price. If you got a field on behalf of Resh Galusa, fakely so, and koifin oyster Resh Galusa limko, so we don't get Resh Galusa involved, and Resh Galusa is out of the picture. Resh Galusa does not have to write the second star, Michlal, but that is to say, the Mikna Kanyale. But the sale is a good sale. The sale is a good sale, right? In other words, as long as Resh Galusa keeps quiet and does not know that let's say I'm the one who did the shtick. He doesn't know that I bought a field fakely under his name. It's mine, right? Wait a second. Why is it mine? Why is it mine? Does the seller know the facts? People tell me, does the seller know the correct fact? No. The seller really is faked, is misled to think that really I'm a representative of Resh Galusa. I even bought myself a fancy suit and I put a name tag, Akiva, working on behalf of ReshGalusa.com. So he's faked, and yet the Mechira is a good Mechira. Ooh, Lema Pliga de Bnei Marova. It sounds like our Brisa disagrees with the people of Eretz Yisrael. The Amri v'Chemiyadil Bal Chitin, Shak Nechitin Abalabais. They required that the Moicher should know all the gritty down to T details. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Well, you see here, it does work. You see that even though here the seller thinks the wrong thing, since Lamaisa, the money, he got good money. He's not lying with the money. 5 million shekel cash and bank transfer is from Chaim Yanko, the one who's faking, yeah? But Lamaisa, the Moicher thinks it's Resh Galusa, and even though he has the wrong idea in mind, since Lamaisa, the guy who lives there, gave the money, is Chaim Yanko, belongs to Chaim Yanko. Oh, so you see, against your idea, and more like your idea, as long as I sell. I don't care who to. And says the Gemara, no, we change the script. If because of that, is that how you want to schlag up, break the Bnei Marava? Like Asha, not difficult. We can make a small tweak in the story. Very simple. Who told you in this esoteric brisa that Chaim Yankel is lying to the seller and to the Adim? By the way, it's very important to know the Adim are very central people there, right? Maybe he told them, shh, guys, no CCTV, no eavesdropping. Are we alone in the room, all four of us? Let me tell you a secret. It's not really for Resh Galus, it's really for me. I want you to be part of my little scheme. You know, I'm such a weak guy, and therefore I'm scared people will steal my field or do stuff to my field. So please, although I'm the owner, I'm buying, I'm going to live there. Those 5 million shekels you see in a big wad belong to me. But please write it to Resh Galusa. So could be they're partners in the story. Mimela, that took the air out of the sale, out of the whole thing. We're not talking about a case in which the moicher is misled. The moicher is not 100% aware. He's 100% aware. And still, halacha applies. So Mimela, that you got out of the story. But now comes the Gemara with a major question asked by Rabbi Dr. Rubinstein. Frag the Gemara, Elay Maseifa, third line from the bottom. Al Minas, if I, Chaim Yanko, ask the seller, you sell me the field, write the star on the name of Resh Galusa for reasons of convenience of security, but I'm asking you, you're the seller, the Resh Galusa should write me a star in return that he has no claims and the land belongs to me. Says, well, what? Koifin Oisai? Resh Galusa Limko? Are you going to force Resh Galusa to write that? Am I? Why? The Leme Resh Galusa has every right to say, go jump in the lake. Or in the words of the Gemara, Lo yikraichu ba'ina, v'lo zilusaichu ba'ina. I don't want you to make me the star of the show. I don't want you to make me your car. I don't want you to make me into somebody so respectful and feared. Feared because, oh, Resh Galusa, that's a brand name. Everyone's scared of even nobody would touch. And I don't want you to make me into a cheap guy who sells apartments, into a wheeler dealer. In other words, what Ellen was saying, how can you force a person, be it Resh Galusa, or be it Mackenzie, or be it Shputsky, how can you force him? We can make a verbal, or not verbal, a financial agreement that would bind him. No way. Therefore, the Gemara rejects this teretz. Therefore, Abaye has a different explanation. A different explanation to the Brisa. Now we don't have the name Resh Galusa. You see, Resh Galusa is in round brackets. A person buys a field on behalf of his friend and it's fake. And the story is as follows. Similar, but different. My name is Akiva, and I'm scared of what from some reason, I'm not interested in what? Not interested in the field being on my name because I'm scared, Khalila, people take it away from me. So I say, write it on the name of either Ish Galusa, some people say, or Levi, or someone. But now I'm asking you, not him. He's out of the picture. He's an unaware, innocent person, as Ellen said. But Lamaisa, maybe I'm ask you, let's say Yitzchok, you're the one selling me the land. Yitzchok, I want you to write me 2 stars. I want you to write me a star, a Reish Galusa, or some tough guy, the Rishonim say, Levi the mafioso, so nobody will touch my land. Yeah, everyone will see that star hanging on the wall. But Yitzchok, I'm scared of Levi or Reish Galusa, they'll take it away from me. They say it belong to them. And therefore, I want you to write me a second star that it's on my name. Basically, I want a double barrel mechira. I want to have Reish Galusa for the good name and the security. And I also want it on my name, so my guard dog will not bite me. Get me? Yeah. So that we don't force him. Yitzchok can say, listen, Akiva, I had enough of all that nonsense. I only write 1 star and not 2 stars. Rishoni explained that Yitzchok has the right to say, I don't have the bad name that I sell 1 land with 2 stars. Doesn't look good. I'm an honest Nadlan businessman. I'm an honest real estate realtor. Yeah, real estate person. I don't want to have the apartment in Ramah 15 that I sold it Ki'ilu with 2 stars, the same place. Doesn't smell right, right? So it's my right to say I'm not interested in that. The im omaloi almenas koifines limko. However, if I told Yitzchak right from the start, Yitzchak, listen, almenas, what's almenas? On condition, I'm only buying your apartment in condition that you write me a double star, 1 on my name and 1 on Reish Galusa. If I made a condition, then you're forced to do that. You have to follow your own condition, fulfill the condition. The question is, what's the chiddush? To be continued in the Maro, Emetz Hashem. Again, I'm repeating, people, I'm serious. This is not a joke. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to have a campaign. The entire neighborhood will be learning the whole Shas together in the same day, and every Moisad Torah will have a place in the internet. It's all one big website with different sections. Each Moisad will have teams and groups of people fundraising. So I ask each and every one to be ahead of a team. Only means you get a link, you put your name, and then you start sending emails and phone calls to Sprint Abela, Chaim Yankel, Tim McKenzie, Kimley, all our friends. We send them, we bombard them, and hopefully we'll make the message bigger, the website bigger. We can get more people to come and learn. Emetz Hashem, other chavrusas, other people, Bezel Hashem. Tizku lemitzvos, and then I don't have to go to Chutzar. I can teach you all the time if that's good for you. I don't know.